Hi, welcome to House of Sweden. My name is Monica Enqvist, and I'm the Public Diplomacy and Press Counselor here at Embassy of Sweden. So glad to see so many people here tonight. We actually have had an event before this, so this is the second part of that event. We had an important event about freedom of press. Today, Sweden celebrates 250 years since the freedom of press law. So we thought it was really important these times to talk about freedom of press and defending the free speech. And talking about freedom of press and defending the free speech, I think you will hear a great example of that tonight. And we are also live streaming this event, so if you want to share it with your friends back home, just send them a link and they can join us online. So, Filip, Hammar and Fredrik Wikingsson, they have a famous podcast in Sweden. They actually did a live production back home in Sweden, and 17,000 people came and saw them talking. They got to say something fun, I guess, and something really worth listening to. But they're also famous TV hosts, and they met each other when they were working as journalists on the newspaper Aftonbladet back home in Sweden. And they now are having different TV programs that they do, and they actually won 9 Swedish TV awards. I think no one has won that many before. And then this podcast that they produce, they actually started a couple of years ago to do it in English because it's been so popular. So therefore we thought it was great to invite them here today as a part of our celebration of the freedom of speech. So please give the hand to Filip Hammar and Fredrik Wikingsson.
Thank you for those kind words. Thank you. Wow.
We should start it as you always tell me to put my phone in flight mode. I occasionally
Please do.
forget that. Is your phone in flight mode? Where's my other phone? I had 2 phones.
I don't care much, Philip. You're witnessing the recording of the Philip and Fredrik podcast. Thank you for this. I think that the whole freedom of speech context is a burden to bear. Don't expect
it
too
has
much.
Nothing to do with that.
No, I don't think. We will speak and we will be free.
This is
so that's
it's
about
less.
it.
I don't know. Less important, maybe.
Yeah.
Than,
also, I need.
Let's switch the tone completely.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that so many people are here. We're aware of the fact that it's Friday night in Washington. Exciting. People want to go out and have a good time. We're going to keep this brief for our sake and yours, and hopefully you'll be able to stay relatively quiet during our little conversation, which it is, nothing more, just a little conversation between friends. But we have been through a very exciting day.
I think it's a little embarrassing to ask people to be silent, because that sort of comes with a self-confidence that we have something to say. I can't guarantee that whatsoever. But speaking of that, I remember there was a lot of you are Swedes, I guess, but there was a very famous Swede, or he became famous because he told people to be silent in a very charismatic way.
Who was this?
His name was François Brunet.
I think so. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I get it.
And he had some sort of traveling circus.
Well, I'm not sure it was traveling that much. It was a circus.
Well, I think it was wasn't it?
Calling it a traveling circus makes it sound way more exciting.
It's true. Where I grew up, that particular circus, Circus Scott, it never came there. We had to stick with Brazil Jack.
Okay, that was the traveling circus.
And Brazil Jack was the sort of the cheap version.
That was the poor man's version of the traveling circus. Okay.
But this guy, François Brunet, and he had kids as well, I remember, and one of them became a huge soap opera star in Sweden later on.
Freedom of speech.
Also, I believe, a racist. That's not part of my story here.
Okay.
Or maybe he wasn't a racist at all. I don't know.
Fake news.
Freedom of speech.
Yeah,
I can accuse anyone for anything. But So he had this catchphrase. He told people to be quiet just before the elephants would enter the room or whatever.
But this was actually
the
really,
tent.
yeah. I mean, this was really interesting. He became a huge icon in the 80s.
His phrase became bigger than the circus.
Yeah, which is interesting.
People came to these shows not to see the clowns
No.
or the elephants.
People invested millions in this circus, which may or may not have been traveling, but it was a circus.
It's also interesting because the show ended after 1 minute because it all started with him, asking people to be silent.
Yeah, but
then the show was over.
The interesting thing about his way of asking people to be quiet
Yeah,
was that he did it in a very charismatic way.
Yeah, he had a specific manner, right?
Yeah, yeah.
When you talk to people here, you just said, "Well, it's okay, it's Friday, maybe you can." Then when you present it that way, people won't keep quiet.
No, they will lose interest.
You need to have a specific manner.
Yeah, Francois Brunet, had he been here?
Yeah, could you translate what he said? Because it's also, before you say it, obviously it doesn't take a lot of intelligence or thought to develop this kind of catchphrase. It's nothing.
No.
But it's just the way
it's all in the
he
delivery.
acted it out, right?
So Francois Brunet, I
Should
can't
he
believe we're
stand
talking
up?
about this.
Should he stand up?
I'm not even sure I should be standing up. But he would come out into the...
Imagine that he also had this little tiny microphone in his hand, holding it like this. Yeah, right?
I think you're making this up in retrospect. I'm not sure he had a tiny microphone.
But everyone in Sweden, this is something people in Sweden, this phrase, they use, at work as a joke, when they walk, and even my teachers use this phrase. So this is a cover.
But it's also interesting, maybe it says something about the Swedish national psyche that a catchphrase that tells people to be quiet became like a national thing. Because, there are variations.
Your analysis is brilliant.
I'm going to
so
come
let's
to the
wait with the catchphrase.
Yeah, I'm just saying that in America we have,
see, in America, it's shut the fuck up.
No, well, that's just a saying.
Yeah, but in Sweden, this is very humble. What he says, he asks for it.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up is just shut the fuck up.
But if a catchphrase...
Humbly, he's asking for it.
But if a catchphrase in the media or elsewhere is going to become iconic, it needs to be something more interesting, maybe. Johnny Carson had the Tonight Show for, I think, 30 years, and every show opened with somebody, Ed McMahon, maybe some sidekick person saying, "Here's Johnny."
That's nothing.
That's also nothing.
It's empty.
It's empty.
It's
but at least it's exciting. It's saying this is going to be showtime. It's like the big time. It's exciting. It's entertainment.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
It's not semantically challenging.
No,
something.
but
maybe that's the secret to catchphrases. They need to be created by stupid people.
It could be.
In a sense.
Simplistic.
Because basically what he says, this guy, Francois Brunet, it's nothing.
It's nothing. Therefore, we shouldn't build it up.
Cliffhanger of the evening.
Yeah.
What did he say?
And why
the
did...
rosebud of this podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe we should wait with it.
Maybe we should use that as a cliffhanger.
It's going to be such an... terrible
anticlimax.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, but it's interesting.
Also, you remember Robin Williams in this movie, Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah,
and that's his catchphrase was Good Morning
Could
Vietnam.
You try to scream it like he did?
But he did.
Good morning, Vietnam.
That's also stupid.
That's
also stupid. It's all about how do you articulate and present it.
No, but I think what's mainly interesting about this Swedish catchphrase that defined the 80s...
This wasn't planned to talk about this, because...
8 million people gravitated towards...
It's freedom of speech. He was allowed to... In some countries, maybe someone would have stopped Francois Brunet
from asking people to be quiet.
You're not allowed. Right. There's a law.
Yeah,
but people stay quiet anyways. They wouldn't need it in the Soviet Union.
That's
right?
interesting.
People were quiet.
So maybe it's a token.
North Korea. Nobody
it's a token of the liberated.
This is true. Like in North Korea, you don't need to ask people to be quiet
because they're
silenced. They only talk when someone tells them to talk.
Absolutely.
So he would be the opposite. Mm-hmm. The opposite of Francois Brunet would be, could you please talk? Could you please talk? Yeah.
That would be a very weird catchphrase for a national sort of psyche. But anyway, should I say it or should I wait?
Well, you could. Let's...
So Francois Brunet.
Yeah. He's dead now, by the way.
He did? He died?
And he was huge. He was such a celebrity in Sweden.
Okay, so in every show.
I remember my dad, when we were watching television, sometimes on Fridays, he was drunk.
Yeah? Red wine.
Massaging my mother, always. She said, "Lars, could you please give me a massage?" So that was sort of the prequel to their terrible sex life. I believe, whatever happened ever. So but I always found it disgusting.
It was foreplay.
He sat like this. and she was always
moaning. All right.
That's part of my
So I'm your
my
mother in
tragic
this.
childhood, in a sense, you know. And I didn't really know that it was a, what do you call it? The
Foreplay.
Foreplay. I didn't know that it was.
It's interesting that you don't know that word, by the way.
Weird. I've always been a straightforward guy.
Straightforward guy.
Weird, kind of weird though, because this foreplay started around the same time as Dallas, the soap opera, started. And then he only massaged her for maybe 15 minutes. And then they saw the entire episode of Dallas. So the foreplay ended.
Okay,
But for
after
some
the opening credits.
Yeah, but for some reason, it still was important for their eventual, you know, sex play afterwards.
All right, so thank you.
But
So
it was
Francois Brunette.
yeah, they were very open, my parents, with
All right, thank you.
later on in life.
But it was
I
interesting.
remember once. I don't know if this is okay. This is a different tone. This is a different product. It's not about freedom of speech.
I
No,
fear for my
can't.
life.
I can't. No, I can't.
Well, now you
I
have
just
to.
remember myself. You're not massaging my mom anymore.
You said that to her?
To my
him.
dad.
Okay.
I said, "What's going on? Do you have a problem?" Well, now I need to fix everything myself, even the sex part of my life. So basically, confess to me that he's, you know,
Masturbating.
yeah, masturbating. That's dark, isn't it?
Well, I guess.
He was like 50 at that point.
But it's part of life.
Well,
Surely.
yeah. Sorry.
So anyway, in every
François Brunette.
yeah, so, I mean, I'm just saying, just so you know, that this was an iconic thing in Sweden in the 80s that Francois Brunette would go into the circus, and he would
He had
stand.
such self-confidence, right?
It's incredible.
He knew that it would be a success. It's nice when you have that asset
Up your sleeve.
to your sort of entertainment persona.
Yeah.
You know that if I suck, at least I have this.
Yeah, and he would walk out into the circus,
Yeah.
and he would say, "Can I ask for?"
No, you need to be way more mannered. Way more mannered.
Dramatic?
Yeah.
I don't think I can pull it off. I think you should try it.
No, but he was French.
Okay.
And he spoke, he was...
How can
he
I
was-
even-
He
all
was
right.
mild. And
What is
sexy,
this? What
and
is this?
sexy.
Acting school?
But this is the start of the podcast.
All right. I can't. Well,
This has been the opening credits.
okay. So I can't do it. You do it.
No.
Can I ask for the greatest possible
And here he comes.
silence? So he really prolonged that
Sort of
S.
an anticlimax.
Yeah, I'm just saying. People expected more.
Yeah, but it's interesting if you put it into context.
Yeah.
This guy built his entire career
Well,
around this.
it-
And then he died.
Yeah.
He died. It was big news in Sweden.
And on his tombstone, it was written, can we ask for, or we got the greatest possible silence.
Yeah, and obviously the headlines was something.
Now we have silence.
Now we have silence.
Yeah.
And then his son, Henry,
Yeah.
whom I've met a few times.
Yeah, the potential
Yeah.
racist.
Well, the potential racist. Henry.
Yeah. He
He
inherited
worked,
the catchphrase.
worked in a record store, I remember. The
I
soap
remember,
opera.
this was big.
Henry Brunette.
Yeah, the big news story of this family Brunette was when Henry.
I think they ran out of business recently.
Yeah, okay, so that's sad. But I mean, when Henry took over the circus
Semi-sad. I don't
after
know.
Francois's death,
Yeah.
it was a big TV news item when he was going to inherit the catchphrase for the first time.
It was like the inauguration.
It was like an inauguration thing. The
preparing.
torch is passed from the father to the son.
Will he pull it off?
Will he say, "Can I ask for the greatest possible silence" in the charismatic way? And I think he did. So that's that.
Yeah.
So we
But
learned
then they
something.
ran out of business.
Speaking of, can we move on? Learning about things. This is Washington. Again, very interesting day. We've just been here 24 hours. We've learned so much. I mean, we have to thank the
Have
Swedish-
we?
Well, I've learned a couple of things about you.
Okay.
And you've learned a thing about Washington that was
Interesting,
heartbreaking.
and still, you learn stuff from me. That's interesting.
Yeah, but it was heartbreaking to witness yesterday evening. We had dinner at the Swedish residence. And
Did we? Well, yeah,
we did. And we met the Swedish ambassador. He's not with us tonight. He's at some burlesque club in Boston. That's no joke, by the way.
His wife is here. I don't know.
It's true, right? It's some theater piece.
true, yeah.
But so we meet him, and we're talking, and I observed something on the wrist of the Swedish ambassador exactly at the same time as you observe this, and I realized immediately that this will have an impact on your worldview,
Well-
which it did. Can you
well-
tell me what happened?
Well, this is actually true. But when I grew up, I for some reason I dreamed of becoming a diplomat. I had no idea what sort of the work entailed in any way.
You still don't.
No, I don't really. No.
which was proven yesterday.
Still, you know, that's why I was so disappointed yesterday, because exactly my sort of vision of the diplomat, or even the ambassador, why I wanted to become a diplomat was because I found all these cocktail parties so appealing. Like, this is a job where you're having drinks, and it's okay to be a bit alcoholic. It's okay.
Not that we're saying that all people are, but I mean...
Well, I had this experience in Shanghai years ago. Boy, the diplomat was just lying on the floor.
Was that the guy you had to carry into a taxi cab?
They had to carry him into a taxi, and I felt instantly that that's who I want to become.
Okay.
It's like a job where that's okay. Because he also has this blue passport, so it's okay. And I guess in Shanghai, maybe if you're drunk and, you know, public intoxication, you could end up on death row. But since this was the consulate, he was under Swedish law, so there was nothing happened to this guy, obviously. But I asked before taking him into the cab, like, am I in China now? Is there a bigger risk that he will die now? Whatever. But so that was my first encounter with a diplomat, and he sort of strengthened the image I had, or what I was striving for as a kid, a diplomat. Then my dad told me, well, you have to maybe study
law.
Study law. And then
5 years.
Yeah. And
I can see your enthusiasm dwindling as he's saying this.
I got in, actually, but then someone said you can do something else. So I didn't end up studying. But, so here we are in Washington.
Yesterday evening.
I still have this vision.
Very romanticized.
Let's meet another party ambassador. And I see this gentleman, this humble and very, very nice man, Bjorn, who was great. But when I see his Apple Watch, that's when my dream of becoming a diplomat died.
Yeah.
Because these are the new diplomats of the world. I don't think this is only the Swedish ambassadors and diplomats. For some reason, people have started to take care of themselves.
Well,
and I don't like that.
I think there has been, over the last couple of years...
I have no appeal to me anymore.
I think there is an Apple Watchification of the ambassador profession, if you will, because you just know that in that Apple Watch, there will be a health app, and he jogs, he takes care of himself religiously, and nothing of the thing you envision about his job is true anymore.
No, because I've also heard stories when this dream was enhanced when I moved to Stockholm, because I heard stories about the old like East German embassy. They actually partied until the 90s or 89.
That was pre the Apple Watch
Yeah, and
era.
also the Russian embassy. We heard about a Swedish prominent TV CEO or whatever. He actually partied in the Finnish embassy, in the sauna. And apparently he lost part of the building because they started, they played a game or something in the sauna.
Yeah.
So I still thought that was the lifestyle of the ambassador or diplomat. So it was a true letdown to come here.
But also, today we visited the White House, which was a really emotional thing for us. We've watched all the films, we've seen all the documentaries. It was really powerful. It's hard to talk about because it's almost like discussing a dream. I had this weird dream last night and nobody really cares. So if we say we went to the White House, it was incredible. We saw the Oval Office. People will think, well, didn't you have lunch with the president? Wasn't it something else? No, we just saw the Oval Office from afar. So it's nothing really. But
the first part of, the people working here have been so generous to us, but we did 2 tours, right? And the first tour was more of a traditional museum tour. So we were obsessed with sort of framing out all the tourists, and there were ropes and stuff. That's all we did. Like, let's make it look as if it's a private tour.
In pictures.
In pictures, yeah. And we succeeded.
Yeah.
But then,
the idea is to take pictures, post it on social media, to make it appear like you have a private meeting with somebody important in the White House.
That's the thing with
it was
media.
A completely guided tour.
But that's weird with media. We've been talking a little bit about this today. There are so many fake stories out there, and it's hard to sort of navigate through social media because what's true and what's not. But if you and I would have written on social media, well, on our way to a meeting with Barack Obama, 80% would believe
Absolutely.
us.
If you frame things out.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to frame ropes out, you need to frame people out.
But it's all about framing out.
Yeah, but the thing that ties into what we talked about earlier, about your big letdown.
And there was also a letdown because this first tour, and you walk, and there are lots of people there, and you take some pictures, and you're framing out. And suddenly, there's the merch shop as well.
Of course.
And I was slowly dying. But then the second tour.
But that was amazing.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that...
It was not amazing, but it was okay.
Yeah, but
the second tour was amazing.
Yeah, sure. But what I'm getting at is that the double whammy, the knockout punch of your big letdown when it comes to the ambassador profession.
About,
when you realize that the Christmas
idiot.
party in the White House takes place between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And
In
you
the
just said,
afternoon.
what's the fucking point?
Yeah. Well, that's true. It's true.
After that, I mean...
There's definitely... It corresponds with my dinner with the ambassador and his Apple Watch. Because I've always dreamed about Christmas parties in the White House as well. I love Christmas ornaments. I mean, after this, we'll probably hit a bar where there is lots of ornaments, because it's important to me, because I feel well.
Okay.
It's really weird. I'm so sensitive to just...
You really are.
To the atmosphere in a room. And, well, speaking about that, the other day I live in Los Angeles, it starts to rain. And it rains maybe, 3 times per year. I'm exaggerating a little bit, maybe 15, whatever. And I get depressed instantly. And
my heart bleeds.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I feel as if the world is unfair to me.
Because it rains.
Do I have to live in a city where it rains?
All right.
So
The struggle is real.
So I look out through the window, and I don't cry, because then you would, you were my polygraph test.
I would
So,
call
I
you
would
on
be
it, yeah.
like, no, you didn't cry. But I was truly depressed. So I opened a bottle of beer or whatever, went out, and I had a cigarette outside. I have a little, there's a roof in the outside area. And then I see my 1-year-old son, or 1.5 almost. He walks out, and he sees that that I feel as if life has been treating me unfairly.
He's 1.5.
Yeah, he's 1.5. He
Very
looks at me.
sensitive as well, apparently.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying here. So I love this son.
Oh, great. Thank you, Filip.
Well, it took a while, but now I'm obsessed with him.
Okay.
So, and he's young. So this is the first time ever he experiences rain.
Oh, wow.
So he doesn't know that it's a bad thing just when he looks at it.
Okay.
So I'm thinking I need to do an experiment here to see if he's my son. It's like a DNA test,
All
right?
Very simple one.
What's going to happen now? Does he have my genes? Yeah. Because when he came out, he was laughing. And I'm like, what the fuck are you laughing?
It's raining.
What's going on here is truly depressing, And then so I pushed him out in the rain, and he sort of freezed. And he was just standing there for 30 seconds. It was cold as hell. He had a T-shirt on, and he had a cold already. I said, I need to see what's happening. And then it was raining, and then he started to cry, like a baby.
Which he is,
And he just cried and cried and cried. And then I realized, wow, he's my son. And that was the confirmation. Very relieving. So, yeah, I'm very sensitive to...
but that's what I wanted to talk about, because you said something after we exited the White House. Again, great experience.
But honestly, you have to agree that a Christmas party that takes place between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m., that's not a Christmas party.
That's something else.
I mean, the Christmas parties in Sweden, when people, every company has a Christmas party. And at every Christmas party, someone dies. Almost. There's always something. Well, so Leif got drunk, they found him in the river.
Well,
2 years later.
Well, at least, like broken collarbones. At least.
No, it always happens. Someone dies because they get too drunk. So, he left, or she left the party in a T-shirt.
Yeah.
And he
fell asleep in the snow.
Yeah, and got so cold, started to undress, because that's what happens when you're really cold.
People know this. That's a well-known fact. Yeah, that's a well-known fact.
Yeah. I mean, a guy in my school did exactly that, but that was not. I mean, I'm talking about the Christmas parties at companies. They're very dark events.
Yeah. Okay.
People are unfaithful.
Yeah. Okay. You want a little bit.
They start complaining to their bosses about stuff, and then they die.
Okay, so that's what happens. You want a little more of that in the White House.
You always see like 2 friends, and you got these carts from the grocery store, and I put my friend in the cart and then just pushed him into the river, and for some reason he died.
Okay. And then he died.
Then he died. Yeah.
So that's more of that.
So it's not a Christmas party,
No,
at least to me.
Yeah. So you're trying to.
I hate sophisticated events.
Okay.
Try to turn this into a non-sophisticated event.
I'm just saying that when we left the White House, you're still reeling from the disappointment of the news of the Christmas party.
Well,
and also the Apple Watch from yesterday.
At the same time, I'm happy because I realize there's no point attending this Christmas party.
Okay,
Would be, I would get bored.
Okay, great.
Instantly.
Yeah.
You know.
But then you say you're trying
It's
to.
all receptions. It's only receptions. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
So you stand with a glass and you talk to someone, and then it's over.
If you ran for
I would
president,
cry.
you would stop.
Even my son Tage would cry at the Christmas party.
I will stop receptions.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we leave the White House, and again, you're collecting yourself after this.
Forget my passport. At the.
And
White
you forget
House.
your passport, but
Yeah.
that's taken care of. But then you say, "Can we please have pizza for lunch?" And I say, "Wow, you rarely eat pizza, Philip."
Do I?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, and then I say,
I don't really know where you're heading now.
No, but so we went for pizza, and you said, "Well, I will tell you tonight. It's a good story, or at least it's an interesting story. I will tell you why I always eat pizza when I'm in a sensitive mode."
Now you're really switching the tone here. I don't.
Well, you said that
But
you.
I've never been that personal with you. Almost.
Well, you did say that you wanted to talk about this.
This is bad.
Why
So
why do you
Yeah,
want?
I wanted to talk about this while you and I were having lunch, a personal lunch,
I assumed that you wanted to talk about it here.
and that's why not everything I tell you is content for this
Okay,
podcast.
but now it is. So why do you? I want to know.
I don't honestly. I didn't,
Well, it could be. It can't be
but
that
it's
bad.
it's darkness.
Well, people are ready for darkness, Philip.
Yeah, but it's also a story about my mom that is not very flattering.
Okay.
Maybe someone
Freedom of
knows.
speech.
Someone might know my mom here.
Freedom of speech. So why do you always want to eat pizza when you're emotional?
You can tell them this story.
Well, I haven't heard it yet. You said you were going to tell it tonight.
Didn't I tell you that
No,
story?
you said. I don't know how emotional you
I
were.
was
You
sure
said
I told it to you.
No, you said you wanted to share it with me in front of an audience.
Did I?
Yeah, because you had a beer at lunch.
Turning.
Okay, so
Something is going on in my head. Well, I mean, it's not funny at all.
But you said it was
And
gripping.
it's not flattering, as I love my mom.
Okay.
She's the best person I've ever met.
But
But, so when I grew up, I mean, I've been going through tough times lately. So I've been spending some time with a shrink. I don't know if that's a good
maybe you
thing.
should
For
bring
me,
your
well,
headset. Maybe you should, I'm just noticing your terrible microphone technique. Maybe you should bring it up here a little bit.
It's like 100% idiot in everything. So yeah, I've been spending some time with a shrink. I don't know if that's a good thing for me because I feel worse in a sense. Every week I feel worse.
Also a bit more broke because it's really expensive.
Yeah,
right?
it's really expensive, especially in the US. It's crazy. But I so I tell this shrink that when I grew up, my mom this is not okay. It's not okay.
Okay,
Well,
anyway.
she oftentimes when she was fighting with my dad.
And that happened a lot, right?
Well, yeah, it happened quite a bit.
You have told me one time that she chased him with a knife, a steak knife. Yeah.
She did.
Yeah.
Once she also she took you had these phones that were hooked to the wall, like Swedish. They looked like communist phones in a sense. We had a gray one, incredibly boring, like incredibly boring phone. And she was upset with my dad, and she just crushed the entire phone, so it fell into a lot of pieces.
Failure of communication. There's a metaphor there somewhere.
Well, and I was thinking, and
I'm reaching. I'm reaching.
And well, that phone was depressing. It was like rain to me, that phone. So in a sense, I was happy. Let's get a red phone instead or something.
Very exciting.
But then my dad just took a plastic bag and he picked up all the pieces. And he went down to the local phone shop. And he said, my wife is very upset with me and she just, destroyed this phone. Could you possibly fix it? And then he came back with that same phone, with just one part was the same. So it was like a red hook that he put on the phone, and it was different colors, like a rainbow suddenly.
Okay,
But it was
from rain to rainbow.
It was kind of embarrassing for my dad as well. Well, they fought sometimes. And then my mom sometimes told me and my sister, well, we're getting a divorce. That happened very often.
Okay. That's
Something
interesting.
you shouldn't tell your kids. But as I said, I love my mom, and she, maybe it was a good thing to do. I don't know.
So she would make an empty threat in front of you kids that she and your father was getting a divorce.
Yes.
Just to sort of upset him.
Everything was okay apart from this in the family,
Yeah,
right?
but that's not okay.
No, well, but I respect her so much, so it's okay.
Okay.
But I asked the shrink, is that why I'm fucked up? And he said, yes.
Okay.
That's why you're fucked up.
So there is that.
Yeah, and and I brought it up with my mom the other day, and she said, "Well, that's nothing." She's also a woman, which I truly I tell her that I'm spending time with a shrink, and she says, "Isn't it better to just take a walk?" It's that generation, So she said that from time to time.
I mean, full disclosure for people, you also recently got divorced.
Oh yeah, sure, sure. So that's why I'm spending time with a shrink.
Yeah, I get it.
It's all connected.
Yeah, I guess so.
But
what, I don't see how the pizza ties into
well, this is the thing. So she said that. And,
We're getting a divorce.
And my dad looked at me with his eye. He was lame. Such a lame dad. I had incredibly lame. So he just looked at me, and then I left the house. And I always went to the same little tiny local deli, basically. And I bought a bag of candy. Always the same. Gott och blandat. Good and mix.
Tasty and mixed.
Tasty and mix. And I bought that, and then I went out in the forest. And I sat on the same stone, and I cried.
Wow. Wow.
This is
pitch black.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's
you're
right, yeah. So
how old,
I'm
you're
sitting-
12. How old
I'm
are
12,
you?
Yeah. So that's where the fucked up process started. Of course.
Wow. This is,
Very intense emotions. Like what's going on in my life?
you're on a stone eating mixed and nice.
If you know my mom, could someone? Yeah, I don't want her to hear this.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there for hours on that stone, and then you're laughing.
Well,
can you picture this 12-year-old guy
It's
crying on
really
a stone?
sad. No, I mean, what's funny about it is you telling it now. It's something about it is funny. Just,
Have
I
to
mean,
have a
it's
snooze.
very, very
I
small.
mean, my son crying in the rain, that's nothing.
No.
But me crying on this stone,
Mixed and nice.
so it's over.
Candy.
It's over. Me and my parents are not gonna live in the same house anymore. Then it gets dark, and I took my bicycle and I went home.
It already is dark, Philip.
Yeah.
But I mean, then the
And then I get to the house, and they're still fighting. So maybe I go to bed, and same procedure next day. I go sit on this stone. Then maybe after 2 days, I see that there's a little glasnost, or whatever you call it. The atmosphere is slightly better. And then I always, for every time I know that the fight was over, was when my dad said, "Well, are we gonna have pizza tonight?" And then he brought up the phone, and then he, called for pizza. And he asked my mom, "What do you want?" And she always responded, "I want a calzone," which was a pizza that was
covered up, yeah.
folded, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I knew every time that my mom said, "I'm having a calzone," I realized they're not getting divorced.
wow,
So,
wow.
there
I mean,
have always-
that's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
It's
So
also, I
that's
don't know,
why-
something about it is comical.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it's
But it is comical, I get. And then
it's funny that it's content.
So the pizza has emotional connotations for me.
Okay.
And then I went to the Salambo pizzeria to pick it up with my dad. And I always got this lollipop, I remember, with a thin lollipop, which represented some kind of relief to me for years. So every time I give, there's so many metaphors and signs, every time I give my daughter a lollipop, I think of, when my parents fought and how the lollipop symbolizes, peace.
Okay, wow.
Peace, yeah.
Yeah, well,
that's my life.
That's beautiful. Yeah. This is turning into an interview with you, but I'm fine with that, by the way. That's quite all right.
But this is not as dark as it sounds. I have to stress that.
Sure.
But
Whatever
we have a
floats.
very good relationship with my parents, and they, apart from me, are still married. So yeah, that's,
I don't know what to do with that, really.
that information. Well, that's pizza for you.
Yeah. We have a few more topics I want to go over. I don't know. We have a few. I want to talk. I have two things to choose between. Either the female artist or the who cares if she's female or not. Marina Abramovic, the artist. You know her, right?
Well,
the
yeah.
artist is present.
Yeah.
I heard about an installation that blew my mind. Maybe we could talk about that.
Sure.
We could also talk about the dancer Mikhail Baryshnikov.
It's all sort of a high-end culture.
Yeah, we should maybe go there at least once.
Well, yeah, we could also talk about. I had this experience, by the way, just tying into the.
I'm quietly folding the high culture note back
honestly,
into my pocket.
It sounded boring.
Yeah, okay.
It sounded boring.
All right. So where do you want to go?
Well, I don't know if there's a correspondence with my previous topic here, but being a good dad is important to all of us, to you as well, and my self-confidence hasn't been that good for years.
Regarding fatherhood?
Well, I don't know, but then the worst thing happened to me. I go to the preschool, and there's a code so you can get let in. I'm there very often, but I also have problems remembering codes and stuff.
Okay.
That's an ongoing issue in my life. So I'm standing and I'm trying this code desperately. I'm doing this thing as well, blowing on the
so you can see
on
what
the keypad like
that burglars used to get
Yeah.
into apartment buildings, right?
So there's this woman standing behind me, like really stressed out, Hollywood writer or whatever, and I'm It's like, what are you doing? Well, I'm trying to get in. And she's, so what's the code? I'm telling her. She's like, never seen you before. I can't let you in.
Oh.
So you have to walk away.
But you have been there, right?
But all the time. But maybe I don't make really a huge impression there. I don't know.
That's
So
sad.
she said, I had to walk to the side, and I can't let you in. So she went in, closed the door again. So I was standing there. And then after a while, I realized that and someone told me it's 2004, and I got in. But that was the worst moment as a father. I don't know why I brought this up, but it was. Now probably that number, the 2004, will be my new pizza somehow. All these things will, be part of my sentimental side.
Well, and there is a lot of that.
So Martina Abramovich.
No, there are things that I think that the art world has a problem to reach the masses, right? And I think much as we spoke about today, we talk about freedom of press, and we talk about the problems of the elite media to reach the entire U.S. country or the entire world. It's all about, clickbait, and it's all about short articles, and it's all about, tantalizing lies that people will click upon and click on, and then they will, mistake that for news. And I think that the news media should become better at presenting these complicated stories in really short...
More accessible, right?
Yeah, because if you read the New York Times, in theory, as you said earlier today, when you get the New York Times and you sit down with it, you think that you will read all these articles.
Well, I also think that I have read an article, but I haven't.
No.
So when I leave the table, after breakfast, I think, I read 3 articles in the New York Times.
Which you really haven't.
No, I haven't.
Because you so desperately want to read these articles.
And you want to come off as somewhat, updated with the current events.
Yeah. And I think the art world is also sort of mistaken for elitist, and also maybe sometimes it is. But then I read about this installation that there was something very, very immediate and sensational about it. So Marina Abramovich is a performance artist. She makes weird things. She and her ex-boyfriend, I think they walked the entire Chinese wall, right? That's many years ago. They start on one end each of the Chinese Great Wall of China. And then they walk towards each other.
How long is that wall?
I have no idea.
Does someone know? Sorry?
250
so that's
kilometers.
Roughly what?
100 miles.
100 miles. Because I've always thought that, is it that impressive? I mean, people are talking about the Chinese wall as it's a true achievement.
Well, it
Building a wall. Is that...
But it was a long time ago.
But isn't the wall Trump is talking about, is that it's going to be probably longer than the Chinese wall.
But that's now.
And he's going to do it in 2 years. That took, what? 200 years. They're always bragging about how many people died while they were building.
I don't think they're bragging about it.
But
I
it's
think
part of the history making, turning it into a real tourist spot.
Yeah, but what's interesting about the Great Wall of China, by the way, is the misconception that a lot of people share that you're able to see the Great Wall of China from the moon. Which is, why would you? It's just a line, right?
I don't know. Why wouldn't you?
Because it's just a line. It needs
to
be...
it curls a little bit,
yeah,
right?
But it's too thin. It's impossible.
How thin is it?
But it's like a road.
I remember we fooled the person once. It's always a good topic, a good conversation piece. What can you actually see from the moon?
You can see the Earth.
You
we
can
all
see
know
the
that.
Earth, yeah, maybe.
You can see oceans.
The Pacific, the Atlantic, that's
continents,
yeah.
No problem.
But, so it's also, what do you think you could see?
And some people actually think you can see the Great Wall of China because it's long. But just because something is long, there is no reason for you to see it from the moon.
It's not completely clear to me, because...
but I think it's completely clear to most people.
Because this happened, once this guy... He's, you were mansplaining me a little bit. So he fooled me into thinking that you could actually see the department store Harrods from the moon. Because he said, well, at Christmas time when it's lit up.
They have a great light display. You can actually see it from the moon. I can see he's totally digging it.
And I bought into it. Yeah, so you can really see it.
But the Great Wall of China is really long. And they walked from one end of it each, and then they met each other in the middle. They hugged and then continued walking. That's a performance piece. That was it.
But did they film it?
I don't think so. But they told about it afterwards, and that was.
And that turns it into art, right?
Yeah, but what I heard about now, which is I think fairly recent, is that they had an exhibition where she stood in the middle of a museum. I think she may have been bare-chested, maybe not, but it was really intimate, and it was pretty raw. And he had a huge bow and arrow.
Okay.
Her boyfriend.
And he killed her.
No, that was stretching. But then he extracted whatever you say. Yeah. So and he held the arrow really close to her heart. and he held it
And
like...
who was this guy?
It was her boyfriend.
I wasn't really listening. Okay, come on.
But I'm just saying that she held the bow and he held the string. So it was, if any of them lost the grip, she would die instantly. And they had a microphone to their hearts. So what was playing in the entire museum is their heartbeat, you know, escalating, going faster and faster out of fear of death.
But they did this once and filmed it, or was it like
who cares if you film it?
Well,
that's not the
if
point.
It's a recurring installation, or it just happened once.
If it happens once, it's even cooler. I'm just saying.
Well, it's good. I agree.
That's all I have.
But
It's a cool thing.
That's all you know about art. Well, you once told me about art. Wasn't it Salvador Dali, right? When he was dating his wife to be for the first time.
And her name was Gala, by the way.
Wow.
Better name than Reception. That would have been awful.
But because I have switched a little bit, I don't have the talent, obviously, but the artists are still crazy. The ambassadors are not crazy.
Yeah.
But a lot of artists are still crazy.
Yeah, which is enticing.
Yeah, and Salvador Dali was, right?
Yeah. Well, he was eccentric.
So what did he do on that first date?
I think to impress his wife-to-be on their first date, I think he poured 5 liters of pig blood over himself and then met her and pretended that nothing was strange.
That's a date.
That's a date. I mean,
But these people should push the envelope a little more.
But I think what's interesting, I think the artists are really good at creating
my mom used to do that as well. We're getting a divorce. Pig blood. Are you fucked up? Yeah.
A little bit.
Tell the shrink, like, I have this story about my mom.
Yeah, well, it's a mixed and tasty.
First on Friday evenings, you know, my dad was massaging her, then they started fighting. Okay, yeah. Then she went out somewhere, she killed the pig. Okay, she came in and then she poured the pig's blood over her body. Okay, and then she told the kids that we're getting a divorce.
Yeah.
So, well, it's maybe reasonable.
Well, I think that artists like this are really, they should help the media to reach more people because they're way more sensational in the way they present things, and I think it's really good. And I think that's something, like you heard it here first, we got to see much more of that in the future to reach people.
Well, that's true.
It's a prediction.
But I think maybe, speaking about art, I think food has become the new art, in a sense. People are tired of these images and whatever, paintings. This is, by the way, this is Swedish guy called Mattias Klum, right?
Yeah, we're in the cellar of the Swedish embassy, and we're surrounded by pictures of the world by the great photographer Mattias Klum, who I think...
Klum? It's English version. Mattias Klum.
Yeah. And I think what really made his legacy, if Francois Bronet's legacy was the greatest possible silence, that's it. His was, and still is, he's able to sit in trees for months and wait for things to happen.
Yeah, I think he waited for a monkey for 3 months.
Yeah, that's what all people in Sweden know about him.
Well,
he waited in a tree for 3 months for a monkey, then the monkey appeared, he got a picture, that's it.
I guess that's life. I guess we'll all die.
Yeah.
One of these days. And I think once we die, you know, we're only gonna, we're gonna have, speaking about legacy, what's going to be your legacy? François Brunet, nobody, I mean, he had a very interesting life, but for him it was only that catchphrase.
Yeah.
For Mattias Klum,
sitting in a tree for 3 months waiting for an animal.
Yeah, so it's really, the
but there must be so many Mattias Klums who sat in trees for 3 months and nothing happened, and then they went home.
Well, most of the time, nothing happens.
Yeah.
So I remember I saw this live, some BBC show.
Can I just say, imagine the heartbreak of the non-Mattias Klums, the guys who sit, or gals, sitting in trees for 3 months waiting for that silver-haired monkey, whatever it is, to appear, and they don't appear. Imagine that guy or gal packing the equipment and, climbing down from the tree, the sadness, the poetry of that moment.
Those are the moments that'll make you commit suicide, probably.
Could be.
We were outside
You don't even climb down, you just jump.
we were outside the Situation Room today, and that was powerful, I guess, this place where a lot of important decisions, I guess, are taken. It's not very, it's a small room, and the entire sort of, there's a small corridor, and then there's this really cheap coffee corner, right? You expect that there would be like baristas dressed up and just, what do you want, sir? And
well, that's just you. Nobody expects that.
It's like, it was like a Christmas party to see this cheap coffee corner. Like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
And they have these small, tablets you put in a coffee maker, and the coffee is not strong enough. And it disappointed me. Yeah. But you see the situation room, staring at the situation room. It's sort of epic, I have to say. Like, wow, this is the room where, people have,
Well, that's where the classic picture of the entire administration during the Osama bin Laden thing.
Yeah, you have all seen that picture where the part of the administration, they're looking at some screen.
Yeah.
Think it will be a truly legendary.
It's the exact same moment as Osama bin Laden is killed. That SWAT team is going down, the helicopter is crashed, it's very dramatic, and Hillary Clinton is a little more frightened than the others, and that didn't play so well for her.
Just in reference to your Matthias Klum story, and if you miss something, what if someone, while that is happening, I'm just, getting a coffee, this shitty coffee machine, and then while you're getting the coffee...
Did I miss anything?
We got him. Yeah, we got him.
We got him, okay.
Then he would probably also commit suicide.
I'm not sure about that. Anyway.
Or, what's left in life to live for
I don't know.
after something like that? No, but I'm saying, I watched this documentary about an Italian chef. I don't know what his name was. He lived in Ancona, I believe. And he just referred to his food as art constantly. And he had this dessert, and there was this intern who worked there and was supposed to, for the first time ever, to serve someone with this dessert. And she walks out and she's shaking because the dessert is so magnificent in every way, and it looks like.
And it's their first time serving it.
Yeah, and of course, chefs in general are assholes. The worst scum of the earth.
I have a theory about that.
Scum of the fucking earth.
Well, you don't have to cuss.
Well, but it's really true.
I have a theory.
Bullies.
Why chefs are the worst bullies in the world is because normally, when the best people in the world are at their workplace, they never meet people who are way below their level, right? Because when you climb up, you become an expert, you become best in your field, you only meet people who are almost as good as you. But chefs will meet absolute beginners in kitchens, interns, right? Like this nervous woman.
What gives them the right to
Nothing, but that's what brings out the beast in them.
And it's also sort of an accepted culture, right?
Yeah.
If I
Smack them around.
If I start working here, then it's okay
Yeah.
that you treat me like shit.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's part of my education.
Absolutely.
Very un-Swedish.
Yeah.
Very Anne Björn, who's the ambassador here.
Yeah, very
he wouldn't treat his
Let's hope.
like that. But so she walks towards this table and she drops the dessert and the plate on the floor, and it just breaks. And then he stands there, this chef, and he just picks up the dessert and put it on the plate again, and he says, "This is art. This is the way the dessert was supposed to look."
Wow.
And now, 10 years later, they still serve it that way. Smashed.
Okay. It's so convenient to be a star. You can get away with anything, right?
Well, yeah, probably, I guess, especially chefs. That's really true, because I was in Copenhagen the other weekend. A city now famous for food because they have this restaurant Noma. And apparently they're making so much money, the city of Copenhagen, because people are traveling to Copenhagen just to have dinner at this weird restaurant. René Redzepi, I believe the chef is called, also an asshole. But it's true. I watched this documentary about him.
All right.
So this guy in this documentary, we've spoken about this documentary before, so they walk out in the forest to find stuff for their menu, and they're in Japan and blah blah blah. They need to find, and he's just. It feels like a sect, Like he's just. I have all these stupid guys with me who believes me that this is actually going to be turned into food. So he has one of the guys who's probably not the smartest guy or the sharpest knife in the world. So he pulls down a leaf
randomly.
And
let's hope it's not poisonous.
The Japanese countryside. And he tastes this, and he's like, "Oh, it's perfect. It's the perfect taste of a leaf. It's really perfect." And then René, he tastes a piece of the leaf as well. And he's like, "Yeah, it's really good." And then he tells this guy, Lars, "Well, find another leaf on this tree that tastes exactly the same." And Lars is staring at the tree. 5,000 leaves.
They should taste the same. Not according to René.
And then he pulls down another leaf, and Lars says, "Well, yeah, it's the same taste." René tastes it. "No, it doesn't taste the same. Fuck this idea." And then they walk. Yeah,
All right. All right.
Well, so I was in Copenhagen, and there was this guy who used to work at Noma, and you come to this restaurant, and it looks nice and easy,
And you're visiting.
I'm visiting, and it was late at night, and there were no real restaurants apart from this close to the hotel. And the hotel said, "Well, it's a really nice restaurant." As they, if he was just recommending some kind of Ebit Grill or wherever we had dinner last night. And you get there, and they say, "Well, we only have a tasting menu and a wine pairing, and then snacks." Snacks to you. What's that?
Peanuts.
Exactly.
Yeah. Chips.
Chips. That's how you grew up.
Yeah.
In a house with parents who never fought, right?
Yeah.
Never ever. Right?
Well, never mind them.
Well, but they never fought.
What's happening at Noma?
So they bring in the chips, because first, and then I have a bite, and I thought this is delicious, and then they say, well, it's actually cow's cock. So it's a cock. It's
a cow is female, Philip. So that seems
okay. Well,
weird.
what is it? It's a bull.
Okay.
Never mind.
Polygraph test.
But it's not even a polygraph test. It's just me not being that educated again.
Okay.
But since it's made of shaved penis
turned into chips.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you're supposed to be blown away, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Like the Abramovich
thing. Yeah.
And then it just continued. Then it was a vagina. Like after that, it was a cow vagina, right? Not a bull vagina.
No, that would be weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
On a crostini.
A transgender bull.
And it just continued, and then they served chicken anus, and this is true.
All right. Freedom of speech.
And they just came out with a lamb head.
Yeah, okay.
And he says, well, this is the menu. What's the menu is based on?
Okay.
But that's, maybe the chefs now are the crazy artists.
Yeah, it could be. All right.
So that's it. Yeah. And I had the day after I was feeling a bit
queasy, I suppose. Yeah. All right. So I don't know. Maybe our time is running out. Maybe.
Let's see. Wow, we've been going on for almost an hour.
All right. So.
Maybe you should, you should do the sort of a one more anecdote. You usually do that in Sweden, right?
Well,
Since we're in Washington.
All right.
First off, truly, we appreciate it, your laughter a lot.
Well, and your company, by the way.
We've had. It's really tough. Sometimes we panic. We were doing this moderated this, I don't know, debate or conversation earlier on today. I don't know why we did that, and I'm quite impressed that they had such confidence in us, the people at the embassy. Well, Bjorn wasn't here today, so that's probably why it happened.
And the cat's away.
Yeah.
With his Apple Watch.
And there was this conversation about, I don't even remember what it was.
Social media.
Social media. That was, so we get to meet these three journalists before we were supposed to enter the stage. And you ask one of the brilliant woman from Politico, right?
Yeah, what do you want to talk about? Yeah. And she speaks
for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, and I understand zero of what she's talking about. Absolutely nothing. And I glance towards Filip, say,
I'm never your savior. You can't trust me.
No, and it was.
And that, so that gave us
it was
bad confidence.
Well,
so coming in here, I felt very late.
And you're also very sensitive.
I also feel that I've been too, revealing about my childhood.
Well, it's okay. It's a long time ago.
Well, but maybe people will feel sorry for me. But this has been very relaxed. Yeah. I'm happy. I'm back again.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I've been feeling like shit for 2 hours.
Great. Yeah. But so I will end this.
I think. Is there anything else we need to see? No. Thank you, maybe.
Thank you very much for doing this. Yeah. Now, what will happen is I will tell an anecdote that I've told on a couple of occasions. I could tell it again, I think, because we're in Washington. This deals with one of the most beloved U.S. presidents ever, Ronald Reagan.
And it deals with death.
Yeah,
and we're all going to die.
It's a very dark anecdote, but it's also humanizing. And
I feel like you should have the stage by yourself.
Maybe
you should also start François Bronette, because it's a very important anecdote. So you should start by saying,
Well, you should say that and then leave.
Okay. And what did he say? What did he say?
Can I have the greatest possible?
Can I ask for it?
I don't
remember.
Okay.
Maybe.
So and I will tell this anecdote. It will be quite clear when it's over, and then that will be it. You won't laugh because it's dark, but you will feel.
It's not as dark as my story about my mom.
It's way darker. It's way darker.
I don't know.
But it's powerful and it's humanizing.
But it doesn't involve kids who get treated like shit.
No, but anyway.
Scars. Okay. Lifelong scars.
All right.
I'm laughing, but I have scars, Fredrik.
But you're laughing.
I have scars. Yeah. I have real scars.
But why are you laughing?
I have scars. Nothing means anything anymore. But I have real scars.
All right.
The shrink was crying.
All right.
The shrink was crying.
Okay.
I told the story. What a terrible, miserable life you had.
But the thing is...
And I asked him as a narcissist, do I have scars? and he says, yes, you have scars. Yes, I have scars.
And I
Because
can
it's
also
an asset.
picture you appreciating the fact, wow, I'm making this psychiatrist cry.
Yeah.
I'm quite a performer.
But it's interesting because I guess a lot of you can identify with this. It's nice when someone tells you have scars because it sounds you become a more interesting person. If someone would tell you that you don't have any scars,
Well, okay. Leave.
scars everywhere.
Scars.
So this final anecdote.
Yeah.
Is you in front of 18,000 people or 17,000 people.
I've done it before. I know this anecdote.
Yeah. Okay. So could I ask for the greatest possible silence?
This is, I think, 1999, 2000, 2001. Ronald Reagan is old, and he is stricken with Alzheimer, as most of you know. He had been that for a couple of years, and he's living in Bel Air with his lovely wife, Nancy Reagan. His second wife. He is, by the way, the first president ever to be elected as a divorced man. And now, of course, we have a man who's been divorced twice. So that's history in itself. But this is 1999, and Ronald Reagan is living a quiet life in his residence in Bel Air, where time is passing slowly, and he's just sort of taking it easy because he doesn't have much choice. One day, Nancy Reagan can't find Ronald. And there have been a few occasions where he's gotten lost in Bel Air, walking the streets, bewildered in a smoking jacket, and this was really before the TMZ era, so nobody really took pictures of it, no cell phones, so he got away with it, so to speak. But this is, she can't find him, he's not on the streets, and eventually she finds him in the library of the residence, and he's by the aquarium. And this is a true story, by the way, told by the official Ronald Reagan biographer, who was told this story by Nancy, and it's quite a powerful one. And so she's walking up to Ronald, saying, or Mr. President, or Reagan, whatever you want to call him, and she said, "Ronnie, what are you doing?" And he's standing by the aquarium, and she can see that his hand is wet, and he has a clenched fist, and at the bottom. On the bottom of the aquarium, there is like a replica of Washington, D.C. You have all the little buildings, but in small versions of it. And he has been, obviously, had his hand down the aquarium because it's dripping wet. And she says, "Ronnie, what are you doing? What are you holding in your hand?" And he unfolds his hand, and in his hand is a small replica of the White House. This is a true story, by the way. I said that many times, but I need to stress it because it's not a joke. It's just sad. I don't know why we ended up here, but that's the way it goes. And he holds up this little replica of the White House, and it's dripping wet from the bottom of the aquarium. And Nancy Reagan says, "What is that, Ronald?" And he's staring at it, and he says, "I don't know, but it's got something to do with me." Thank you very much. Thank you. A bit of a downer, but that's the way it goes. So, and Filip is over there, so thank you. And weird way, Filip, to end this. Bit of a buzzkill. I realize that now. But anyway, thank you very much for coming. Yeah, thank you for the silence. And a rare thing when performers...
You could, if you want to listen to our podcast, it's called the Filip and Fredrik podcast. Where can it be found? I don't know.
On the internet.
On
with
the
most
internet.
Things.
The Filip and Fredrik podcast, yeah.
If you want to have a beer with us outside, we're going to be outside and have a beer with you people if you want to. Otherwise, have a good night, and thank you very much again for coming.